Welcome back, 8:14. This morning we are tackling the topic of Cyber Monday because it is Cyber Monday. Radio host Lisa Wexler is here to share some of her opinions. Good to see you, Lisa.
Good morning.
So let's talk a little bit about this Amazon tax.
Yes.
The state of Connecticut has backed off from enforcing it. Why and what is it?
Well, back in June when the legislature passed this, they wanted to essentially say that online retailers should compete with regular retailers in that buyers would have to pay a sales tax. Before that, there was no sales tax on, they call it the Amazon tax, but it isn't exclusively Amazon, it's any online retailer. And the theory was back in June, the Department of Revenue Services said, if you impose it, it's almost impossible for us to enforce. Very difficult to find, very difficult to track. The legislature passed it anyway. Well, as of last week, in fact, predictably, the Department of Revenue Services said, we're not going to enforce it. We can't enforce it. And we are taking the position that since Amazon is lobbying in the United States Congress for a nationwide resolution to this, we don't know what that will be, we're letting them take the lead, we're backing off. Because all these Connecticut affiliates that were doing business with Amazon were dropped by Amazon. So it actually hurt some Connecticut businesses, some small businesses. In the meantime, they are saying, however, that they're going to tax consumers with a very little collected tax most people have never heard of called a use tax, in which we as consumers, they will look at our purchases, and if we haven't paid tax, they're going to try and get us on our side versus the vendor side.
So we're supposed to somehow keep a tally of things that we buy online that we didn't pay tax on, and then what, send an additional check in, or maybe part of the same check?
I think there's going to be more forms coming out, from what I can gather.
And the idea that generally people use credit cards to buy things online, I guess that's probably the only way to do it.
Sure, the only way, right? Yeah.
Now they kind of know that, well, you spent $100 at Amazon.com, and we're not seeing any tax, so are they going to come after you?
They might. If they're auditing you already, they'll be able to find it.
Right.
So anyway, the Department of Consumer, they're trying to get that tax from us. In the meantime, speaking of taxes, another little notice story is that you know that we have had this retroactive income tax hike in Connecticut.
Yeah.
And I, by the way, am opposed to that altogether. I wish that our legislature would make it a constitutional amendment in Connecticut to never have retroactive tax increases, because I think it's fundamentally unfair. You and I plan based on our disposable income how we're going to spend, and then we find out after the fact that we have to give money to the state. I just think it's wrong. They did it with the estate tax, and now they're doing it with the income tax. I think it's wrong. But notwithstanding that, they've done it, and they made a mistake, because it's such a mess that all these payroll services cannot properly account for it. So the story broke that all these people that did overtime during the October storm and put in all this overtime had their overtime paycheck docked completely for the old tax, for the withholding, and now the state is refunding it because they realize that people need to eat.
It's a mess.
It's a mess.
Lisa Wexler.
It's a mess.
You can always